Hi, welcome to the bathtub, where when you hear this sound effect, and we stop it really quick because we don't want to get sued, and also because when I do YouTube and when I tape these and I play that song, the camera goes all glitchy. I don't know, Apple. It's Apple. I hate Apple. I've decided. I'm sick of Apple. Anyway, so the camera goes all wonky. So anyway, that you don't need to adjust your set. That's just me. The other thing is I have like kind of this angelic light. It's because of a certain time of the day. I'm doing these in the afternoons now without any alcohol or pixels and no carbs. We don't have any carbs or alcohol or pixels when we make these. Just pure mountain water. And that's a mix of the natural light and these light bulbs up here. It looks like heaven's shining down on us, doesn't it? Anyway, the other thing I want to say, this is basically new books. I show you new books that I got, most of which I have not read, just to show you some cool books. And a couple people mentioned this recently, and I hear from people every so often. I have a tendency to mutter at the end of sentences. I have no idea why I do that, but I'm going to try not to mutter at the end of sentences. That's my new Thanksgiving gift, end of the year gift to the poor people who try to listen to me and understand. Because I have people say, I really thought you sounded kind of interesting, but I don't know what you were talking about. So now I can totally prove them that I wasn't saying anything interesting by speaking more clearly and enunciating, particularly the ends of my sentences. Okay, Library of America. We love Library of America. You can see I've got tons of them up there on the shelves. I don't know if you can see them there. And I've been buying them for years. They're kind of handy, especially I find them particularly good with poets. You know, when you have a lifetime of poets like John Ashbery or W.S. Merwin, instead of having all the individual volumes, they collect them in the individual volumes, and it's kind of a nice way of saving a little space. They do a lot of writers I like. Mailer's not one of my favorite writers, but I do like writing about him and rereading him every so often to figure out why it is I don't like him that much. And this is a brand new book of his. It's the new volume, which is The Naked and the Dead, his first novel and his most successful novel, and so a new selection of his letters. Again, all the volumes are about 900 pages. The pages are a little too thin, but they're quite light, easy to carry around, and you can pretty much, cover a lot of interesting books. And they're really nice. They're good on the eyes too. They're pretty well set, and the light off the pages isn't too glaring. So anyway, that's the new one coming out like next month. If you like Norman Mailer, these are. I mean, I give these for Christmas presents and birthday presents often, especially my nieces and nephews. So I won't give them The Naked and the Dead, but I do like to give them books like that. This is collected essays. This will include many of his political essays, which many people like more than I do, such as when he covered political campaigns like the Chicago Democratic Convention and different essays in here from his political writings. This is another one. This is fairly old. It's a few years ago, but you can still get new copies. This is 4 books in the 1960s. Possibly Miami and the Siege of Chicago's here. It's not in that. I'm sorry. That's a famous long essay of his. The Armies of the Night is another nonfiction book. He won the Pulitzer for that. And then 2 novels, An American Dream and Why Are We in Vietnam? 3 books by Mailer, and they cover a large part of his career. If you like him, you can give him to somebody. Here's a writer I've always had mixed feelings about. I want to spend more time on rereading DeLillo. There was a time in my life when I wanted to read everything of his because I loved White Noise and I loved Running Dog. This was 35 years ago. And they've now done a Library of America volume on Don DeLillo. Cool. 3, The Names, White Noise, and Libra. I get a lot of people writing about on this YouTube. People will often write and say how much they like the book Libra. I couldn't finish it. I found it really boring. I got to this point where certain times I would like DeLillo and sometimes I didn't. And Libra wore me out, to be honest with you. So did Underworld. But I want to go back and try some of these books again. Anyway, 3 volumes. There's a new movie coming out based on White Noise. And it's got a good director and writer on it and cast. And that might be a reason to get this. I kind of, with DeLillo, sometimes want to have the paperbacks. But that's a nice volume. And I guess they're going to do all of DeLillo. This is another cool book. I would have tried to review this if I had known it was coming out. This is called The Future is Female. It's edited by Lisa Yazek. It's volume 2 from the 1970s. And a lot of these are writers, women science fiction writers. I don't know if they're feminist science fiction writers. There are lots of good women science fiction writers, especially at this time. And it has most of the writers I know, we've talked about. Doris Paserchia is in here. Doris Paserchia, one of our favorite SF writers. Joanna Russ, of course. Kate Wilhelm, we've talked about. Who else is in here? We've talked about James Tiptree Jr. or Raccoona Sheldon, which was another one of her names. I don't know. Ursula K. Le Guin is in here. This is a cool book. There's a James Tiptree Jr. story and a Raccoona Sheldon story. Those are 2 pseudonyms, I think, for Alice. Alice Sheldon? I forget her real name. Anyway, Lisa Tuttle, old friend, is in there. Connie Willis. It's a cool book, especially if you have someone who likes science fiction. And it looks pretty well selected. Again, a beautiful looking book as well. And that's an original from Library of America. We've got tons of Library of America here. I've been saving these because I've been falling behind doing these. I would love to get this when I was a kid. 2 Ray Bradbury volumes in a kind of cool box set. It includes novels. What is it? Novels and story cycles. So one has Something Wicked This Way Comes, Dandelion Wine, Fahrenheit 451, The Martian Chronicles, and then another one which is mainly stories. So 2 collections of stories, The Illustrated Man, great collection of stories, The October Country, and then just lots of other stories. What a cool set. Pictures of old Ray Bradbury, one of our Bathtub Hall of famers. You cannot have a Bathtub Hall of Fame without Ray Bradbury in it. And great. I mean, I have most of those anyway, but I would be excited if I was 18-year-old or 16, 15, 14-year-old and got that book. I've never gotten too far through the Catton's books about Civil War. My old friend Gus Hosford, we talked about, used to love Bruce Catton, and this is a trilogy, the Army of the Potomac trilogy. I don't know if you might like that, but it's a cool book if you like the Civil War. Here's something else I got. Some people are big fans of Bret Easton Ellis. I'm not a big fan of Bret Easton Ellis, and I don't think I finished one of his books. I thought he was an interesting writer, but I can't finish his books. Anyway, this is a new novel from him. I guess the first one in many years, and it comes out in January. I was toying with the idea of maybe trying to review this and then trying to give another chance to whether I like him or not. But this is a brand new one called The Shards. It looks very autobiographical, based on his time, I think, at a prep school somewhere on the East Coast. Or no, it's in Los Angeles. Anyway, I don't know where I haven't read anything about it. But it's a big, fat book by Bret Easton Ellis. I have friends whose opinions I respect, who keep saying he's better than I think. So you might want to try that when it comes out in January. What the heck is this? I got a lot of stuff I forgot I even got. This guy won Sigrid Undset. And this was one of the early Nobel Prize winners. And I have a couple of friends who really like this woman's work, and I've never read her at all. It's coming out from who? University of Minnesota Press, who have been doing some pretty good stuff. And this is already out, October 25th, 2022. If you're interested, this is the 3rd volume in an epic story of medieval Norway. I've heard good things about Undset as well. What do I know? Here's a cool, I forgot, I've had this in the stack. My old friend John Clute and Beckon Publishers, Roger Robinson, I think it was. Roger did a couple of my Christmas books like 20 years ago or something, these little tiny things. And he started getting into publishing. And he published, my friend Clute's, he's been publishing all of his criticism in these really nice editions. This is must be Judith Clute, John's wife, 2 of my oldest friends in London. And it's John Clute does what I never do. I keep thinking about this. I'm going back and rereading old science fiction I read when I was young. I read very little new science fiction, and except I have one other book I might talk about, which is the only most recent science fiction book I've read, which is still 30 years old. But John is an incredibly bright guy. He loves to kind of look at science fiction books in the context of this large kind of universe of science fiction and the different types of narrative ideas and structures and the way people tell stories and the ideas in the text. And he kind of likes to map them out, which is why he's written that great encyclopedia that I still use all the time. It's free online, the Science Fiction Encyclopedia. It's called Sticking to the End. It sounds like almost like a Sticking to the End. It's a very Cludian title, and I won't try to unpack it because I haven't read it yet, but I will read that one. Here's one, again, we are friends at Tachyon. We love Tachyon Publishers, and I've hardly read any of their books except the couple of Tom Dish ones they did. This is called Bitter Medicine by Mia Tsai, and it's a Xianxia-inspired contemporary fantasy. I don't know what Xianxia is, but then I don't know a lot. And this is a Taiwanese-American author in her debut novel. Anyway, that's coming out in March 2023. Anyway, Bitter Medicine, Mia Tsai, and that's all I know about is what I read on the back. Finally, Whatnot by Rose Macaulay. Is that the last one? Rose Macaulay, and I forgot what I knew about Rose Macaulay, but it's a satire on Britain's after World War I, it says. And it's part of this other cool thing set by Massachusetts, the MIT Press. We talked about it, the Radium Age series, nice cool covers. These are kind of historical, pre-World War II science fiction from all over the world. And a couple of the ones I've read have been definitely worth recovering. And I looked this up in the John Clute SF Encyclopedia, which told me this was an interesting writer, Rose Macaulay, and I forget everything I read because it was more than 2 weeks ago. I thought I had something else in here. Yeah, I'm going to talk about this real quick. Just to clear up, I'm trying to clear off the shelves. There's so much stuff. This is kind of a saying goodbye. Talking about Clute reminded me that when I was early years I knew Clute, he was a big fan of Phillip Mann's novels as science fiction. I wasn't reading much science fiction for a long period of time, and I remember he liked The Eye of the Queen when it came out. Phillip Mann just died, and a lot of people whose opinion I respect about science fiction came out and said how much they liked him. And so I went out and picked this up, Pioneers. Some people said this is his best solo novel. He wrote, I guess, a few series of science fiction. It's a very, very far, far future, really over the top, wild extrapolation of these pioneers who are sent out after the planet Earth is pretty much decimated by one of the horrible things that we do to ourselves on this planet. And all these people go off, and they're equipped with this ability to continually adapt and to evolve. After they're in their bodies, they can adapt to different planets, and so they turn into these kind of creatures that live on these planets. And it's about a couple of people who are designed and genetically designed to go bring these people back. It's a very over-the-top book. I really enjoyed the first half particularly, and a good, interesting SF, really kind of mind-bendingly unusual science fiction novel. And so it's Pioneers by Phillip Mann. I can clear off my shelf now, and that's not a new book. That's from 1980s. That's from 1988. Okay, I hope I didn't mutter too much. The angelic light is shining down. Cheers. No pixels. No carbs were harmed in the production of this episode, and take care.